Welcome to TIA's Connectivity Jam, where we have the pleasure of speaking with leaders in our industry on key topics that drive businesses. Joining us on this segment of TIA Now is Robert Conger, Vice President of Cloud and Portfolio Strategy at Adtran. Robert, welcome.
No, thanks, Deb. Thanks. Glad to be here.
How are operators faced with challenges from over-the-top content providers entering their markets?
Yeah, so the over-the-top content providers have taken advantage of cloud-scale platforms that are easy to deploy and actually enables them to monetize a lot of different services that typically the communication service providers would have been able to monetize. Whether that's over-the-top video services, which are the most obvious ones, you see players like Netflix, Hulu, Sling TV, others coming in that market and monetizing the video content segment. You also see it though in SD-WAN, managed CPE, business type services. A lot of those applications that really didn't even exist 5 years ago are taking a big hit on what the traditional market segment that was for the communication service providers.
What are the primary reasons global service providers are leveraging SDN for their broadband and Ethernet access networks?
Yeah, so a lot of the things that the over-the-top players were able to take advantage of was a highly programmable network. So very low cost, easy to deploy, actually enabled things like customer self-service portals. Well, the operators realized that they need to embrace that technology to stay competitive with the cloud players. And so SDN is one of the fundamental technologies that helps build out a programmable network. And then by leveraging SDN, the communication service providers will have a lot of the same benefits that you would have typically been able to achieve with more of a web scale player like an Amazon or a Google.
Why is software-defined access, SD access, so important to Adtran and to moving to open networks?
Yeah, so the access network is really that connection between the central office and out to the customer premise, or in the case of a cable network, really from the head end or hub site out to the customer premise. And so that's really where, when you instantiate a service, or if you imagine that scenario in which a customer goes to a self-service portal, activates a service, they really need to be able to program that access network. And so taking that traditional access network and moving it underneath an open SDN controlled network is a really critical point to achieving that very programmable customer self-service model that everybody's trying to achieve. And for Adtran, that's the space that we focus on. And so we kind of made that shift a few years ago, and we're trying to lead that transition to enable service providers to deploy these more open programmable access networks.
What does it mean to re-architect central offices into data centers?
Yeah, great question. So central offices, when you think about what's stereotypical of central office, it's racks and racks of vendor proprietary equipment, equipment that probably started, generationally, dates back 15, 20 years ago when a lot of the initial internet boom started. And you compare that to a data center world though, over the last 4 or 5 years, they've built these hyperscale, very modular, high-scale networks that they had a few different factors. Well, they used SDN to make it highly programmable. They virtualized as many functions as possible to take things out of proprietary hardware and move software into kind of cloud environments. They disaggregated big monolithic systems, and then they embraced open source. And so those principles are what the operators are trying to now employ in their central offices. CORD, Central Office Rearchitected as a Data Center, is an open source initiative that kind of embodies those different architectural principles. And so what you'll now have in the central office of the future is commercial off-the-shelf type hardware servers, for example, that deploy a lot of software functions on top of those. And then you have these highly programmable access components that provide connectivity out to the subscribers. And so that'll be your new central office, much more modular, much more scalable, much more programmable. That's kind of what you'll see going forward.
How does Adtran play a role in SDN and the access network?
Yeah, so again, if we go back to the access network, really that connectivity to the customer that's so important in building out these programmable networks. Adtran was really the leader back, a few years ago we made that switch. So dating back in the 2015 type time frame, early 2015, we saw this trend, embraced SDN, open SDN controlled networks. And so as you start to see new technologies emerge, whether it's GDAP-Fast or 10 gig PON, you'll see more and more of those being built in this new architectural model, kind of that embraces the CORD type architecture. And so Adtran kind of pioneered that path. And so we've been really spreading that to a lot of operators all around the globe, whether that's in the cable segment or in the traditional telco segment. And that's really the core of our business kind of moving forward.
Thanks, Robert.
All right, thank you.